Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bree. Hi if you're new here, or hey if you've been here before. Today I'm going to be talking about my wildest, craziest, maybe unrealistic author dreams. So today's video is inspired by Alexa Donne. I'm going to leave her channel linked down below, and this kind of started out from someone else. Like, she ended up doing it after someone else posted a video, and it just kind of like spiraled from there. But I really love this idea. I kind of like sharing like what my goals and ambitions are, especially with you guys. So I thought, what better way to talk about what I actually want to achieve as a writer and an author. Essentially, what the goal is just to kind of share what your ambitions are as a writer or an author. So this could be anywhere from, some small or minor goals that you want to achieve, and maybe some of the more bigger things that really would take a lot of effort or to get a very big audience before you can reach them. And I have 12 of them to share with you guys today. These are the ones that I could definitely think of, like these, I absolutely want to have these one day. And like I said, some of them might be a little unrealistic, but they're out there. They're on my bucket list, essentially. And whether or not I get to them, I'm not going to be mad if I don't achieve them, but I definitely want to aspire to achieve them. And I think if I keep going in the way that I'm going, and maybe eventually I am able to get some of my smaller goals, the bigger goals will be achievable. So without further ado, let's get into my 12 author goals. My first goal that I want to talk about is pretty obvious, and I know I've said this a bunch of times. I've said it in live streams now, I've said it on my channel, and let's just be honest, I want to be traditionally published. So I would love to be able to get the whole spiel. I want the agent, I want to go through the editorial process, and I want my name out there and out of my hands, essentially, and into someone else who like knows how to market and how to kind of amp up my books. The reason that I want to traditionally publish isn't anything crazy. It's just I know that I am very confident and comfortable writing. I'm not so much comfortable marketing. I have a hard time putting myself out there, and I have a small platform on Instagram, and out of all three, I use Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, and out of all three of them, my Instagram has the most followers with, I think, about 1,300. Maybe not even that most, might be 1,100. But I have a hard time promoting myself. Like, I don't like to be pushy. I don't even on this channel, like I don't even do the whole like and subscribe this video. It doesn't really feel like it's my style. I would rather people come and stay because they like me versus me telling them to do so. And in that regard, when you're self-publishing, you have to do all that work for yourself. You have to, get people to do a book cover. You have to hire the editor. You have to hire, a distributor, or like figure out how to distribute them. You have to format it yourself. There's just a lot of things you have to do in the beginning that I don't know if I'm comfortable doing, because then a big part of that is pushing pre-order giveaways and sending out newsletters and just amping people up to be interested in your work. And I'm also not a full-time writer. I have a full-time job. So to do all of this work on top of my full-time job, which can be very draining, is daunting, and I don't know if I can do it. So, long-winded, but that is kind of why I want to be traditionally published. Caveat to this, which I've kind of tweaked, but traditionally published, I would love to be able to be published in the Big Five. That's, I feel like, a given for most people when you're writing and you want to be traditionally published. Having a Big Five name is wonderful, though as I'm getting more into like how I'm writing and what I'm doing, I am totally okay that if the Big Five itself, like if Penguin Teen or if Sourcebooks, like any of their like sub outlets for publishing would want to pick me up too, I'm also fine with that. I mean, I know it's not the Big Five technically, but it's like a sub publication underneath them. So I feel like it still counts, and I would be okay with that as well. But in general, just getting traditionally published, first and foremost, that is the thing I want to achieve. So the rest of these aren't necessarily in order, but probably would take part in whether or not I do get traditionally published. So the second one on this list that I'm going to talk about is I want to go on a book tour one day. I have gone to book tours as someone who is a consumer, a reader, and I love them. I think it's so personable, and I love being able to talk with authors. And I've been to different sizes. I've been to like bigger book tours where there's a lot of people and it's limited spaces, and I've also been to, more so, I've been to smaller ones where it's pretty inclusive and there's just a few people and you really get that one-on-one talk with authors. I've met quite a few that way, and like I said, they were so valuable for me as a reader and also partly as a writer, because I got to see what they're doing and they get to answer my questions. Like, I asked about querying and I asked about their process, and I learned a lot from doing that. So I would love to be able to be in their position that I see as a consumer down the road and be able to kind of talk about my writing and talk about my books on a more personal level and in person. The third thing that I would love to be able to do is attend a book convention. So again, I've attended conventions in general. I've attended a specific book one, and I've also attended things like New York Comic Con. But I would love to be able to do something like BookCon or YALLFest, anything that's kind of in the vicinity of like it's an exclusive book convention. I want to be a part of it. Also though, because I'm a huge nerd, Comic-Con and any kind of anime or manga conventions, I'm also not opposed to being there. So I'm like really being very general. I love attending conventions, and I love dressing up, and I love talking to authors at these conventions, especially the ones that aren't focused on books, that like maybe are more anime or comic book conventions, because the authors that are there usually have more time because people aren't specifically there for that. And I've met with and engaged with a lot of authors that way as well. So I'm totally open. I want to be either on a panel. I mean, I would love to be on a panel. So I want to be on a panel, and I would love to be like a guest, like where my name is actually included of like, she's a guest at this convention. I would love that, just because again, I'm a huge attender myself, and I would love to be able to be on the opposite side of that. I also think too, where I'm located, I live in Pennsylvania, and I have access to tons of conventions. I mean, New York Comic Con is only like, it's within 3 hours. Boston is within like 5 to 6 hours. Going down to Charleston, a little bit longer, but like I can easily drive and like make it work. So it's very accessible, and I think it's very easy. And again, I do it all the time myself, so it's not like I'd be going out of my way to attend something. So yeah, I think that would just be really fun and exciting. And like I said, I would love to be on a panel specifically. I think that is so cool. Along the lines of kind of attending places, I also want to be a part of a visiting author series at a college. I bring this up in particular because my alma mater has a visiting writer, or at least they used to, where they would like get in touch with writers from wherever. It doesn't have to be like alumni, but it could be anyone, and they would have the author come in, they would do a reading, they would answer questions, and just kind of have, again, that one-on-one chit chat with the students. And I want to do that so bad. I remember sitting there and like watching these authors in college and thinking like, I want to do that one day. Like I want to be in their position. So that's still a dream that I've had since 2011. And I think it could be very easily doable, again, especially because I know my college in particular, I probably could make connections there to get in and do that. So I would just love to kind of continue that tradition and do that as well. The next one that I have is not physically going anywhere, but my number 5 is that I want to be on a podcast. So similarly with the visiting author, like being there in person, I want to be a guest on a podcast. I think that sounds so fun. Technically, so I'll give a slight caveat. I have been on a podcast before. It was 88 Cups of Tea, and but I was a reader and kind of like introducing myself as like a consumer, not as a writer. But I love 88 Cups of Tea, and I just love that I was able to be a part of that. So like doing that experience has even like further ignited the fact that I want to be back on a podcast as a guest writer. I love talking about what I do. That's why I started a YouTube channel. And I think having a podcast could, again, I mean, it increases your voice. So if you're able to be a guest on it, you're more likely to have readers go out and pick up your book. I know for me as a podcast listener, I've literally like made like to buy lists, and I have bought books before based on listening to conversations with authors. So I think it's a great way to, again, just further yourself and further your career. All right, so the next 5 probably are the ones that are gonna be a little maybe far reaching, but who knows? I'm gonna keep it up there. So number 6 is I want to write a Star Wars book. So I know you might be like, oh, that's really up there. It is. And I don't know, like this is one that I'm kind of like, I'm not going to hold on to, and I'm not going to like die crying and regret if I don't ever get to write a Star Wars book. But I just think if I can be able to, write and get my name out there and become a pretty distinguished author, I think writing a Star Wars book could be achievable. There's a ton of authors who do it, and there's always new contracts for different material, And I'm pretty impartial to doing like either a young adult or an adult Star Wars book. I know that they do give kind of parameters. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they give parameters like this is kind of the stuff you need to include in your book, but you can have like free reign on writing it. And I think that would be easy. Like, yeah, give me guidelines. I'll go do it. I have no problem with that. Specifically, I would love to write an adult Ahsoka Tano book because I read the young adult version, which was just entitled Ahsoka, and I wasn't as happy about it because I wanted more like adult badassery, like getting into problems and kind of choosing her morality kind of deal. And I would love to write that. But by the time that like I even get there, that's probably going to be written already. So let's be real. But I'm open. There's a whole world of Star Wars out there and I can write something. Number 7 is something that taking the writing part of me away. I love editing. I love helping people with edits. I love catching grammar and syntax and all of that kind of stuff. And it's really fun to me, especially like even my own work, I don't mind editing it. It's just sometimes I get bored with rereading things over and over and over again. But I would love to edit an anthology. If you don't know what an anthology is, it's basically a collection of short stories where you have a bunch of different short stories that all kind of revolve around the same topic. So for instance, there's one that's actually on my to be read list, which is called A Phoenix Must First Burn, and it's a bunch of young adult stories. There's like 16 of different authors who all have like pretty good credentials underneath them, and they all have like a relatively somewhat similar plot or similar theme to them. And I think it would just be really fun to edit one of those. Because if you don't know, what ends up happening is like you call out for the anthology, you have people who like agree to write the story, and then there's one person who kind of edits it and like figures out like what order it's going to be in and how to present it and all that. And that's what I would love to do. I would love to edit the anthology. I just think like hearing and encouraging other people's voices is something I'm also very passionate about. So I think they go hand in hand. I would love to do that. I think we're on number 8 now. I hope we are. But the next one that I would love to do is self-publish a poetry book. I've talked about this on my channel, and obviously if you watched my writing goals for 2020, I did want to write more poems and possibly start piecing together what I have to make a poetry book. The reason I would love to self-publish a poetry book is just because I think poetry is extremely hard to get publicly known, and it's like such a niche genre as well. I just think it would be easier for me to publish it, and also then like I'm not taking a hit on my career, I guess, if I'm traditionally published by like taking like sales away from a publishing house. And then I also have creative freedom. Like I don't want to butcher the poems that I have written because a lot of them I've put a lot of work and effort into and they're where I want them to be. So I wouldn't want someone else to come in and be like, this is all trash, because they mean something to me. So one day, I mean, I feel like this is one of the most achievable ones I could do because I could literally just pick up and self-publish anytime I want, but I would like to self-publish a poetry book. The next goal I would like to achieve eventually maybe is to have a TV show. And caveat to that, I would love to be able to work on the TV show with the cast. I'm going to channel some Leigh Bardugo vibes in this because I do know that she pretty extensively worked with the cast and got to meet them and was kind of, I think, an executive producer on it. And that doesn't give you full control, but I just think it's cool that you got to be in that room. I think working and kind of giving my creative input on a TV show of something that is based off of what I wrote would be amazing. I think that's always everyone's goal, is to eventually see their things in like a TV or movie. But as far as what I've written now, I think my co-written book would be a great TV show because it could be expanded upon so much. And then with my contemporary book that I'm currently writing, I do think it would be a great movie just because it's very impactful and it's a side of mental health that people don't talk or see about when you're actually in a facility to get help. So yeah, I think that's where I would want to be for that. In the same vein, channeling Leigh Bardugo once more, I would love to be able to kind of write a like spin-off, but not a traditional spin-off series, but like like having something published that's part of the world you've already created. This is my perfect example. In my co-written world, we have a character who has a diary and writes down his prophecies and like the visions that he sees. we would love to be able to write out like his journal and sell that as like an additional book one day. I think that would just be cool. And I also think it's a good way to kind of further connect with fans of the book. And it's also kind of a cool way for us to enhance the world a little bit more without expanding it into several series. So I know Leigh Bardugo is doing this with her. There's like a text on the saints in the Grisha universe in a very similar vein. Like that's what we want to do with this journal kind of style book, where you're just getting like a look into this one character's thoughts. And it would probably be a novella. Like it wouldn't be anything big. But I think if we were able to get a following with that book, it would we would easily be able to write a kind of novella feature for it. The next one that I want to talk about is one of my like ultimate goals, and that is to be featured in a book box. So if you don't know what a book box is, it's a book subscription service. Owl Crate, Fairy Loot, Book of the Month, Lit Joy, Illuma Crate, Spiritcraft book box. I mean, the list goes on. There are so many book boxes out there, and a lot of them are very successful. I literally don't care. I mean, obviously Owl Crate and Fairy Loot and Book of the Month to me are probably like some of the biggest names out there. And if you're watching this and you've heard them, like that's why. But I'm happy and content if anyone would love to pick up and put my book in their box, because that just to me, like that's a sign of making it, that like enough people liked your book that they wanted to share it with even more of their audience. So I think that's like the ultimate goal for me is I just, I don't have to go on tour, but if I can get in a book box, solid, let's do it. Also, I'm a huge consumer of book boxes too, so that's another reason why like I love to get them and being able to see new and exciting reads, especially ones I might not pick up on my own. So again, it's just another way to kind of interact and get more of a fan base when I might not have gotten it beforehand. And my last publishing goal goes along with being traditionally published, and that would be I want to publish in multiple genres and multiple age categories. What I mean by this is, for instance, with age categories, I am currently working on adult and young adult projects, and I want to be able to publish in both of them. So I don't want my age category to be like stuck in one. I have a lot of ideas. Some of them are more complex and dark and gritty that wouldn't be suitable for young adult. And then I have ideas that would be perfect for young adult, like the YA contemporary I'm writing, and I want to share them too. So I want to be able to publish in both age categories. Also with multiple genres, I would love to be able to publish in every single genre, but I don't think that's possible either. But specifically fantasy, contemporary, horror, poetry, and thriller mystery. Like I want to have a book in all 5 of those, mostly because that's all of my interests. Like all of my possible ideas that are floating around and some of the outlines I've created are all in those categories. So I would love to at least to publish in those categories at some point in my life. I'm going to leave you off with one of my author writing goals that might have started to come true. So back when I first started this journey, I had a really hard time connecting with other writers and other authors. I have my best friend, Caitlin, who is my co-writer, and we are always willing and able to share stuff with. And I also have my other friend, Maggie, who is not as entrenched in trying to get published, but she still likes to write, and she's always a good person to bounce feedback off of. And they're great in my personal life, but I have always wanted to expand and kind of meet other writers who are like my cohort. We started together, we've written together, and we're there to be kind of critique partners and beta readers and just cheerleaders when we need each other. And I was having a hard time. I didn't think I was ever going to find anyone. And it almost made me sad because I would see all of these writing groups on the internet, and I would see actually published authors who would talk about their writing groups. And I'm like, where's mine? Where's my writing group? So I'm going to say that this is possibly attained at this point because recently, especially in the last month, I've just had so many great connections with a few wonderful writing ladies. And so these women have been absolutely wonderful. I have gotten so much wonderful feedback from them, and I just love bouncing ideas and talking to them and doing live writing sprints with them. And I'm going to put it on a limb and say that they will be and are going to be my critique partners and my beta readers when I need them. And at this point, I feel like we have a good little niche that they're going to be my go-tos. I'm not going to need to keep searching for people in the internet because I'm just going to relate to them and kind of confer to them. So I'm very grateful that they're in my life now. And I will say, out of everything, I guess I can check this one off my list. So there you have it. Those are my maybe wild, crazy, unattainable author publishing writing goals. I do think some of these are possible, and it really just depends on where I get to as far as traditionally publishing goes. Again, that's my goal, and I know sometimes we don't always get the first books we've written out there, but I've been kind of a writing machine lately, so I mean my prospects of getting an agent keep going up the more I'm writing. So I'm going to keep that in mind, but I hope that at least some of these I will be able to check off someday, and even some of the ones that are a little bit like out there. I'm looking at you, Star Wars book. Hopefully we will still be able to attain the rest of them. So with that said, this technically is not a tag video, but Alexa Donne kind of made it into a tag video. So I am going to tag some people, and I would love to see Autumn Ashley and Hudson McCarthy both talk about what their writing author dream goals are. And you guys can hate me later. If you are also a writer and you end up doing a video similar to this, please feel free to leave it down below. Let me know, tag me in it, and I will watch it and kind of we can share in this glory that is our dreams. Otherwise, guys, until next time, I will see you then. Bye.